All right, everybody, welcome back. I've got an amazing guest here, Cody D'acquisto. And with Cody, we were trying to define his title here at the beginning of, kind of prior to me introducing who he is. He's got a lot of irons in the fire, like the way he described it. He does a lot of stuff, but basically loves custom gear. You may recognize Lone Wolf Custom. He's also doing the Road Show, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But Cody, what got you into? I guess you're big into fitness, bow hunting. Obviously, you've got a trad bow up there behind you. What got you into the outdoors?
Oh man. I was so kind of being born and raised in the city, just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The outdoors and was like the escape of that. My dad kind of grew up in the same way, and his escape was, hunting and fishing. So, like as a kid, my grandpa had a cabin up in northern Wisconsin, and that was like every vacation. Every time we had off of school or like parents had off work, we would drive up north. Like that's just what we did in Wisconsin. And getting up there in the middle of nowhere, I was exposed to a lot of uh, fishing and just outdoor activities, kind of primarily like sportsman activities. We rabbit hunted, fished, things like that. And then as I got older, I got into deer hunting pretty heavy. But my exposure to the outdoors really came from northern Wisconsin, and just kind of getting out as much as I could.
I like it. That's awesome. And it's cool to see. I went to Wisconsin for the first time this last weekend, and there's a lot of outdoorsy people up there. And people that come out west to go hunting, people that are really into whitetails, people that are really into fishing. There's a lot of stuff in that state that I didn't realize that state has to offer. It's a really cool state to have grown up in. You also have some brutal winters, which I'm not jealous of. So
Yes,
pretty
they're
crazy.
pretty gnarly. And even where I'm at now, Iowa, like we get both ends of the spectrum. We got the humid, hot summers, and then we also got the frigid
Mm,
cold. So it's a pretty yin yang spectrum.
that's awesome. So growing up in the outdoors, then like I mentioned at the beginning here, Lone Wolf Custom. So kind of, I guess, break it down for people like me that don't do a lot of whitetail hunting. We don't do a lot of tree stands, things like that. But maybe are considering getting into it. What? Why Lone Wolf Custom? First of all, because did you start it
Uh,
yourself or
yeah. So
did
I'll give you a little
okay?
background. Um, and
Perfect.
first, I guess if we're really getting into the to the fine details of this, and first I think we got to look at tree stand hunting. I think, generally there's always been sort of a negative connotation with tree stand hunting, or maybe like just like a tunnel vision view of what it is. I guess you're typically think of that as a guy who sets a stand, walks out to that same stand, sits for a couple hours or sits all day and then walks home. Typically on private land or over some sort of food or bait. That's kind of what you think of, or what everybody thinks of when they think of Midwest and tree stand hunting. As I grew up and I was exposed to hunting, it was a completely different style of your typical tree stand hunting. Now, where this started, so to answer your question, so my old man founded the company called Lone Wolf back in the mid 80s. So, back when tree stands were made from plywood and they were real heavy, and they were built permanently. um he wanted something that he could move around with and be portable. Thus Lone Wolf Portable Tree Stands was the company that was started. So he kind of pioneered the mobile tree stand. Prior to that, everything was very. I mean, there was climbers, there was plywood climbers, like Baker back in the day, but there wasn't really like a stand really designed to be lightweight and easy to set up. So he started making those types of stands back then. Actually designed and invented the first ever climbing stick, because back then it was all climbers. Even when you, like, if you were tree stand hunting, you had a climber. there wasn't climbing sticks and hang on tree stands back then. Well, then in the early 90s, he came up with the climbing stick, and it was a one piece deal that you strapped onto the tree and you stacked a couple of those together, and then you had your quote unquote ladder, and then you hung your hang on. So, throughout the years, he, cut his teeth with those products he was designing, and out of necessity, created those things to be more portable and more mobile. Created the first ever cast aluminum tree stand, which was like half the weight of everything out there. He had a very, very good mind for design, and everything was very simple and everything worked very great. And a lot of his old designs, actually, everything is still in the field today. Like, it's still, I talk to guys every year that bought stands in the early 90s, and they're like, I still use it. I replace the cables every couple of years, and I'm still rocking and rolling. So with that being said, that was what I was exposed to, was that very aggressive style of whitetail hunting. Like, hey, we don't sit around and wait. We go get these whitetail. We use tree stands to the advantage. And so that's all I knew. And I was kind of a loner growing up too. Like, I had a lot of interest in fitness, but other, like, kind of like more of the extreme sports and other activities, and didn't have a whole lot of friends that hunted. Actually, no friends that hunted. And when I would meet people that hunted, it was like, oh yeah, every November we go up with the family up north, and we drink beer, and we go sit out in the woods, and we shoot deer. And that just was so foreign to me. I never experienced that. I started bow hunting. I never gun hunted a day in my life. Every deer I've killed has been with a bow. And so it was different, right? So, fast forward, many years, I got into hunting seriously at probably about 14, 15 years old. And, from there, I worked with Lone Wolf portable tree stands for quite some time. I worked with other outdoor tree stand companies to do designs and development and stuff. And what I always based that stuff, off of, was this extreme mobile tactic of hunting whitetails. So fast forward now, we'll jump all the way to the launch of custom gear. So how custom gear became to be was really taking that initial original idea and going like balls to the wall with it. Like, okay, now, if you take all these years later, there's a lot more different technology to look at, a lot more design. But not only that, the industry was ready to, I guess, for that more like boutique high end product. I think another negative connotation you always think about tree stands is nobody wants to pay for a tree stand. Like, nobody wants to spend any money on a tree. They're like, oh, I'm just going to go to Menards and get a $50 tree stand. Well, these units become really your lifeline in hunting these whitetails, and your whole tactic and strategy is revolved around them. And Lone Wolf was always a higher priced product. And it stood at the top of, the industry benchmark for tree stands for probably, 25 years. And the company was licensed over, and some patents and designs were sold, and it just remained the same product for so long, and it just stood at the top of the market. Well, getting back into it, I wanted to flip everything. Like, I wanted to go off the deep end, right? So these products that were ready at the top, that were already lightweight, that were already streamlined. I had an entire life of hunting with those products, along with, the old man who, there was things he always wanted to do, seeing it go forward. So we kind of teamed up. I relaunched custom gear in 2018, and it was a complete facelift of all the original gear, designed and manufactured in a complete different way. Everything was completely integrated to work with everything else, and it was, the lightest, most compact, streamlined, user efficient tree stand system there is today. And that's kind of the story behind how Lone Wolf came to be, or Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. And honestly, for a lot of people like myself that don't really know much about tree stand hunting, it's I don't know. I've just never really had a huge interest in it because it's not
Yep.
gear that I
Yeah.
would use necessarily. But I've seen some different ideas lately where you might want to carry some sticks in or something like that to even hunt elk or set up on mule deer early season over some water, things like that. And I've been looking at getting out east and possibly doing some whitetail hunting. So all of those things combined, got me looking at gear, and your stuff definitely stood out as some of the higher end, top end brand of gear that's lightweight, durable, is going to last you a while. One of those kind of buy once, cry once kind of things. And honestly, that's a really cool story. I didn't realize people would carry plywood
Yeah.
stands
Well,
out to go
yeah.
climb with
And,
them. That's
and,
crazy.
prior to so you got to look at, when you look at whitetail hunting, there's some guys who hunt out of the ground, but primarily it's done from an elevated position. Now, whether that be a box blind or a permanent stand or a hang on or anything like that, and and you can hunt them from the ground, but you definitely have an advantage of being up a little ways. And um, the way and that's what's really like one of my passions is getting out, talking with people, exposing them to this new concept. There's a lot of people who have whitetail hunted their whole life, or who have never whitetail hunted, or come from a western side of things. Like, I'm not going to go sit in a tree stand and wait for a deer. Like, they're used to running down elk, and and when they get exposed to it, or they understand like the concept of what's going on, it totally changes their perspective. Like, this is a mission, and I'm so impatient, and not that I got ADHD, but like I got to be doing things like I'm not a very patient person. And like, there's a lot of people who get turned off, and they think that it's like some zen state where you're just sitting in a stand just waiting for the one opportunity. You can go out and create those opportunities with a tree stand and use that gear. So just to give you a little rough for instance, so um, typically, when guys are elk hunting, they plan, let's say, like a trip, or you might plan a trip for whitetail hunting to a destination or whatnot. But um, and you're running around on the ground, or like you're turkey hunting, you're just kind of running gunning turkeys all day. With whitetail, it kind of revolves around like your peak movement times, but it's a constant effort, right? So you go in blind in the dark, you have your stand and your sticks on your back the entire time, and whatever gear you need for the day. And depending on where you're at, what ground you're at, how much ground you have, what you've pre-scouted, you're going to go in the dark, and you're getting in there before sun rises, and you're setting up your stand on primarily like a transition off of food, a food source, or some sort of bedding, right? And as the sun comes up, you're getting that fresh spot, and you're hunting based off the sign you found in that spot. Well, a few hours later, you get down, and then you move with, and you don't have to, you can call that a day, and that can be your sit, and you can come back out in the evening. But when you're really getting aggressive with it, once that movement passes through and you've hit that area and that time frame, then you get
Hmm.
down and you go scout more, and you find yourself the next movement pattern or the next sign, and you set back up and you wait, and then you get down and you move, and it's a strategic like chess match there, to where you're anticipating where they're going to come through, and then you're setting up on them for the ambush. But you got to be, it's a little bit more physical aspect. You're constantly moving. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's just totally the opposite of what you would think when you think, tree stand hunting. Um, our products too also do lend themselves for some like wallow hunting on elk, or setting up on bear or something. Being that they're lightweight and you can toss them in your pack, and for a few extra pounds, you can have something uh, for like an elevated ambush versus not taking it in. Yeah, there's all different ways to look at it, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and that's a great breakdown of you know, being able to be mobile even in the whitetail woods. You know, getting out of that older, I guess, mentality of having to sit in one spot all day, which I definitely understand that whitetails are a lot more skittish than elk or even mule deer, where they get blown out. They're blown out for a while, and that's something that you have to be careful about. But that's really cool. That's a great breakdown of the system in and of itself. So you know that finding that, I guess, that issue, finding that hole in the market and running with it, building a higher end product, which again, not everyone's going to necessarily see the value in it until they've probably gotten their hands on it, or they can hear an explanation like what you just gave as to why that's such a big deal and why they would want to make that purchase. Um, so I guess pivoting off of that, you've got the Hunter Roadshow. Is that
Yeah,
what
it's
that's
called
what
the
it's
Mobile
called,
Hunter
right?
Roadshow. Yep. So yeah,
The Mobile
so
Hunter Roadshow. Okay.
this is an event. So we hold numerous events every summer, and it's really kind of an all-out educational. Let me think of how to best explain this. So you can. Well, let me take it back to the beginning, and I'll actually tell you how it started. So, I've been doing trade shows,
Sweet.
your traditional like hunting expo or trade show for many years. You know, ever since I was probably 15, 16. um, Exposing people to the tree stands, to the products, talking whitetails, talking tactics, showing people on how they can create more opportunities by adapting this sort of mobile hunting mentality and like an aggressive tactical whitetail hunting approach. So with that being said, like, I've always had, I've made great friends, great, found loyal customer bases, got great product exposure throughout these type of events, like forever. When COVID hit, it kind of put all that to a stop, and none of the shows were open, and we didn't
Mm.
know like what the future was of shows. And in that, in an effort to yeah, so
All
um,
right, we're good.
yeah, all right, okay, get back to basics here. So when COVID hit, it kind of put a halt on all the trade shows. So in order to keep getting out, seeing people, spreading the word about the products, um, I just started traveling around, and I would put out there that I would be in a certain location. If anybody wanted to come check out my gear, they could do so. And that kind of blossomed
Mm.
into these events to where now we go, and I um, I go to about 5 or 6 places a year, typically throughout like the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, and we hold a full on event. So it's all things mobile hunting. So the big thing about this, though, like the great thing is it's so educational based. You can see products, you can see what you can feel them, touch them, use them, but it's really the information that you gain coming to these things. So throughout the years, I've linked up with a lot of great people, a lot of killer hunters, consistent guys, gear guys, tactic guys, all that. So what I do is I handpick certain speakers based off the area, and so each event has a local presence as well as a presence from somebody from a completely different part of the country. This really gives us a dynamic range of like whitetail hunters and the terrain they hunt and the gear and systems they use. So it's really cool because an attendee, whether you're super experienced or you're brand new, you can come there and you can pick the brains of all sorts of people. And not only that, you're you're seeing who's hunting where, what gear they're using, and what tactics are shown proven successful in those scenarios. So we have this year we actually have a full on um, mobile hunter university, we're calling it, to where it's 4 courses going from beginner all the way to um, like advanced whitetail hunting tactics and things that so everywhere from mapping to gear you first need to get started to optimizing thermals and then using like strategic pressure methods. So there's a lot of cool information that combined with workshops, in the field workshops, so you can actually physically hold the gear, put it on the tree, test it, see what's best for you. You can get your reps in with it and really get a good idea what's going to work out best for your, not only like, your, you individually, but um, your style or the area that you plan to hunt. So, we shoot bows, we have contests, we give away a bunch of products, but it's just an awesome time. It's a get together, full day, and then we usually camp out and have a little after party afterwards. So, um, that's been an awesome time.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I've heard really good things about it, and I think that would be definitely a big help for, you know, someone getting into whitetail hunting. If you're coming from the west going east, which you don't generally hear about, but if you are doing that, then
Man,
hitting up one of these mobile
you
road.
guys don't, man, you guys don't know what you're
Right.
missing. I know you got the elk, I know you got all these great things out there. You got the scenes, you got the scenery and all that, but dude, I'm telling you, whitetail hunting can be a blast. And I don't think
Yeah.
I'm so surprised at how many Western guys I talk to, or guys that I think are like full on, like they're just like, whether it be elk or whatever they're doing out there. I'm so surprised to hear that them say, like, behind the scenes, like, "Dude, my favorite thing to do is whitetail hunt." And I'm like, "No shit, really?" Like, yeah, and it's very, because and I'm like, "Well, the same, I've never elk hunted, right?" And everybody for my entire life has been like, "Dude, you gotta get out and elk hunt." My dad used to elk hunt every year. He'd be practicing with calls and stuff, and I remember, we'd get all the elk meat when he came back, and even to this day, and what I tell everybody is like, "Hey, I'm scared I'm gonna like it too much. Like, I'm scared I'm gonna like it, and then it's gonna somehow cut into my, before I know it, I'm gonna move out west, and I'll be like, all right, only coming back here or there, so
Yeah.
I haven't taken the plunge yet, but I encourage Western guys to get, out here. It can be a killer
Yeah.
time, and to emphasize your point, there is no better place to go if you are looking to get all the information you need, especially as a new hunter, to get into whitetail hunting and more specifically mobile hunting. Uh, it's just that's what it's designed for.
No, I love it. And it's funny because so I just got back from Elk Ship Camp this weekend, helping out with Dan and the crew up there in Wisconsin. And I know that's kind of a blend of, West and East. And it's right. I mean, it's the Midwest. So people do both. They elk hunt and they whitetail hunt. And to be honest with you, it was interesting to hear some of the guys because it is two different seasons. And as long as you know your whitetail stuff, which I think is that's a big thing for me. Is I don't have a property right now. I could go out to North Carolina and go hunt whitetails if I wanted to, um, but I don't have a property that I know of that I can just go out and sit. Whereas I think there's that entry barrier, or barrier of
Yep.
entry, for people going out east because it's a lot more private land versus Easterners coming out west. They can just pick a spot on a map and like that's public land and they just go hike in. So that's kind of a big deal, I think, and it's been one for me. Along with time, I want to use all my time in September, and but I did hear a lot of people saying that it is nice after chasing mule deer and elk. So mule deer in August and in velvet, elk in September, being able to sit in a stand and not have to hike somewhere in November and
And
and and get some
And
whitetail.
now, see,
So
now you're gravitating right back to that sitting mentality, like, and
yeah.
that's gonna be your November, your typical November hunter is gonna find a pinch and sit there, and it's a good strategy because, like, in that time of year, the deer are running, like, or the bucks are running all day. So in November,
Hmm.
now what you don't realize is, like, so for a guy like me, and that's what's different about like an elk season or like, an elk trip, like when my season comes in, it goes for 100 days. So I'm
Hmm.
looking at that as like a 10 round boxing match, right? Like, so I need to go until the end. And now, there's times where you connect right away. You get that first round knockout, and you got to keep, you can keep going. And that's when you go somewhere else. But like, it's a grind, man. It's a long haul, and usually, like, I'll start hunting whitetail in September. And then, it's a total different hunt. Hunting from September, October is a total different time. November, it gets wild. That's your rut time. Then you even got late season. It gets crazy. But back to what you were saying too. So the barrier to entry. This is 100% why we created this sort of curriculum. So there is an entire segment of the roadshow when we talk about uh, finding that ground. Like, okay, first, what is the gear you need? Or what do I need? Where can I hunt? Right. So there are so many different avenues to find those pieces. And there's a lot more public land than you think. Not as much as out west, but it can, and a lot of times you're dealing with smaller tracks, which can be sort of confusing, but there's a system to putting yourself in a good spot, whether it's public or private, or it's you're going to ask for permission. But there's plenty of big tracks, and that's where there's so much of a similarity between like that eastern hunter to the western, because dude, there's big hills out there, big mountains over there on the East Coast, and you're having to pack into those things just like you would elk hunt, except you got to do it twice a day because you can't spike camp there, you can't stay there, and a lot of guys are doing that on a consistent basis, which makes it even more important to have lighter products. Or a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll hone in on an area that there might be 5 different pieces of property inside of 20 minutes, so it's a matter of like, okay, you're getting there, you're hiking in. Your hikes aren't going to be that far. You might hike in a mile or two. Or if you get on a big piece of property, you might hike in a few miles. But relatively speaking, you're never going to get in a spot where you can't find some sort of road access a couple miles. Like there was a spot I hunted a couple years ago that it was a 4 mile hike in there. Now it was only a 4 mile hike because I didn't want to park by this hillbilly like trailer like meth den. I didn't know what was going on in there, man. There was some sketchy shit going on in there, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to be going over there, So I opted to walk the extra 2 miles. But with what I'm saying is like you're not going to be packing in 10 miles, right? But you're having to do that and then come back out and then maybe jet over to another piece. And it all of a sudden now this becomes like a little bit of a triathlon, and it's day in, day out, finding the new spot. But yeah, there's ways that you can do it, and it's not as hard as you think. And that's what we go through at the roadshow. It definitely takes some homework, but once, and the great thing is once you find these spots, then they're in the Rolodex, so you can go back and there's certain states that get more pressure than others. Like if you're going to go to Wisconsin, like where you
Mhm.
were, there's a lot of pressure in Wisconsin woods, on the public lands, or more pressure than, let's say, North Carolina, like you mentioned. But plenty of land, all over, and really good deer to get on. It's just a matter of, figuring it out.
Yeah. No, definitely. And yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with, there's those couple of barriers to entry, but, I really do like that you're putting on this mobile hunting road show. And, where are some of the locations that they can, if people want to tap into that you're going to be
So
this
this
year?
year we will be in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, for the first event. That one is in June. The second event will be up just south of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The third event is going to be out in Pennsylvania, just north of Philly. The fourth event is in Virginia, Staunton, maybe just an hour from Richmond. And the finale event is at the Custom Gear HQ in Iowa, Bellevue, Iowa. So we try every year. These locations change a bit. We add a state. Like last year, we had one in Alabama and in Ohio. So we really try and move around too to get more of a broad audience. But um, the idea being, there's only so much time in a summer. But between these five, we hope to cover a good area. But yeah, if you're close to one of those, you can always head over to the website too and check that out. That's mobilehunterroadshow.com, and then all the specific dates and locations are there. But yeah, it's and not only like not to discourage somebody who's got their shit together and who's a really really efficient mobile hunter, because
Yeah.
dude, with the killers that we have at these events and all the different systems, I'm telling you, anybody will take something away. Like I take something away on every time we're there. Because one of the specific segments I have too is beyond all this basic stuff, beyond advanced tactics, beyond gear, even like just in general, we do this thing where we look at our speaker setups and we highlight the crazy
Mm.
little mods and like the weird things that all the speakers do. And like this might be something like, oh, I take duct tape and I wrap it around this thing, or I do this on my bow so this happen. You know what I mean? Like just really, and it's really cool because you can see that's where you can tell the difference between a guy who's hammering it and who's doing it day in and day out, and he makes those little adjustments, and that's what you'll see in our products. Like I mean, we have little grooves where the cables seat in, we have all this integration, we try and build it in so you don't have to add it extra, but seeing what guys do, how they customize their setups, little things that can help them and help newcomers avoid pitfalls, like are just is gold. Like that is what's going to make you efficient, and it's what's going to ultimately like keep you in the game.
No, I hear that. That's awesome. I love that you're open to learning
Oh, dude,
and
I yeah.
eh, getting information from other people. Not feeling like you're the expert, but being open to learning and always progressing. I love that. That's
Dude,
awesome.
that's the only way to do it, man. It's like there's so many different ways to skin the cat, right? And it's like, and I do it. I have nestled into a certain style and a certain way that I do things. And if it works out for people, like that's great. I want to put that out there to show somebody a different perspective. But I'm always like, I'm like a sponge, man. And especially even like with training or with like working out or any sort of thing, like if there's something I see that I can implement or that I can take, and I'll take it and I'll run with it and I'll give it. And likewise, I like to try things too. Like I don't want to discredit something because I will go hard with my opinion, but it's only because I've tried, for instance, like, even like in the diet game, dude, I've tried all the diets, and I mean, yes, they work different for everybody, and I think they all work, but I have my views and philosophies on what works the best for me, and I can make a damn convincing argument why you should not try some, and why you should maybe go, toward the route of others. But it's the same thing with hunting, and every year, I just think that's the crazy thing about this game is there's so much. Like you can sit online, like nowadays, like YouTube is so big. Like I think I just missed that era. Like I don't know how old you are, but like when I like back when I was wrenching on cars, like you blew up an engine because you didn't you messed things up. You couldn't, like, YouTube wasn't this crazy, like, or the internet wasn't this crazy source of information it is now. But even so, you got to get your hands dirty. Like you can only learn so much on YouTube. You got to get out there, and by
Hmm.
staying open to concepts and ideas and getting out there and doing it for yourself is the only way. And the only way you're going to really expedite that process is to just be open. Same thing with being in timber. Like even I could walk on a piece of 40 acres that I've hunted for 10 years, and I could go in there with the mentality like I know this entire 40 acres, like I can't learn anything new. Or I can go in there like, okay, let me scout this place like it's the first time I've ever seen it. And you're always going to end up in a better position looking at it, the second way, in my opinion. Um, so
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that, and I'm glad you brought up the fitness aspect because I want to talk to you about that as well because there's a lot of people out there, and I noticed this. It is out west as well, but a lot of people that are whitetail hunters are like, well, why do I need to get into health and fitness? Why do I care? Like everyone I go to camp with drinks, is overweight. We still kill deer. We still have a great time. And why did you find it important to get into fitness? And then why would you say that other people should do the
oh
same?
my god, it's this is it's just such a deep, crazy topic for me because um, I'm known as this, like, the whitetail guy, like this crazy whitetail guy, and I don't do a lot per se with the people who follow me know that I'm into fitness. But I'm I'm fitness and exercise first and foremost. Like it's like people be like, "Wait, what?" But I never got into fitness for anything. It's like it was just something ingrained in me. I think it started at a young age of like, okay, needing to be in shape. Like especially like growing up in the city and stuff. Like, I like there we were scrapping every day. Like, between bullies and other cliques and stuff like. So like, you wanted to be able to hold your own, but like it it even necessarily wasn't like super prime to be or super important to be like super fit, right? But I've like always been obsessed with like as soon as I started working out, I've always been into bodybuilding and like I just thought that was insane how like somebody like like that physique, like, dude, how did that happen? Like wait, like okay, what did and the idea and I remember like looking, I always looked at the old like 70s 80s era bodybuilders as like inspiration when I was 150 pounds, and I'm just and I'm just like, man, like, dude. So and I started lifting weights, and I when I noticed a change in my body, like when I physically looked in the mirror and I was like, oh damn, or when somebody noticed like the first change, and this was at like 12 years old probably. It was like or 13.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was it for me. I was like, "This is nuts." Like I'm in control. I can do anything I want. Like if I can, I can. So I dove into it head first, and I was like, I was working out, at 13 years old, and just all sorts of things, right? And even in high school, I was such into hunting. I was just hammered by the wrestling coaches, by the football coaches. They're like, "Dude, why aren't you playing football? Why aren't you wrestling?" Like my old man put me in football when I was like from when I could walk. Like we had a tackle league. Like it was probably, man, I don't even know how young. Like it was young. It was like like a peewee, like first grade, whatever. I played football from like first grade to like freshman year, and I was like, screw this, I'm done playing football. Like I'm like and all the football coaches, all the wrestling coaches. Anyway, I was just so into training, right? And so I was into training before I even got into hunting. So it's been something that stuck with me. And but the crazy thing is what I will say though is if it wasn't a part of my life and I wasn't as into fitness as I am, there is no way I would be anywhere near like have anywhere near the accomplishments that I've made hunting whitetail. Like and it's way beyond to me just the physical aspect because you can be lazy and you can drag your ass out there and you can sit in a tree stand and you can kill a deer. Like you can do
Yeah.
that. I don't know how consistent you'll be. Like I don't know if you can do that every year, like because you're leaving some chance to it. Like, but relatively speaking, yes, you don't have to be in shape to do anything, right? But let's like if we dial it back, the like the work ethic and the like the um just everything you put into training in general directly correlates to any activity and life in general. Like you're paying in, right? It makes everything easier. um I talked about before like my whitetail hunting, like especially the way I do it, but let's say we're going into a 90-day season. If you are out of shape and like and even if you're going to go walk out into the woods and you know plop your ass in a tree stand 10 yards into behind your house, if you're going to do that every day 2 or 3 times a day for 90 days, even when you're out of shape, that's going to tax you mentally and it's going to be hard for you to do. Like it will be hard. Like it may not seem hard. It will be with the stand. If you're going to take the stand on your back, or even if you don't have a stand on your back, it's going to eat at you. It will in some way, shape, or form. Now, if you take that same guy and put him on a piece of, or put him on a 1,000-acre property with a stand on his back every day, and he's hanging that thing every morning and every night, and then, maybe even midday sits, or or before work, after work, every weekend he's out there all day. Like, dude, this is not just a little like, this is something that requires, some stamina, some endurance,
Mm-hmm.
but more importantly than the actual physical capabilities you'll get from training is the mental, like forging your mind to doing shit when you don't want to do it is huge. And like I learned a lot from, like, I used to do natural bodybuilding competitions, and just a bodybuilding prep, like a 16-week prep, is something that is like a prep done right that gets you down to like that 2% body fat, and like you're training hard every day. It is it's not hard to do. Like, I wouldn't even say it's hard to do physically. Mentally is where, like, when you get broke, when you are depriving yourself of nutrients, when your brain is not functioning at its at where it wants to because it has lack of nutrition, and you are fighting and tricking the body to just to get rid of fat, and like you're going against everything your body wants to do. It is a freaking it's a in the trenches, or it can be like in the trenches moment. Um and not to go too off on the sideline, but like
Mhm.
if anybody follows bodybuilding, you got this guy, Chris Bumstead, right? So he's now been just hammering the
Mhm.
Olympia. I've been following Chris Bumstead before his first ever show. I was like, dude, that dude's got it, man. And I remember the first year I think he took the Olympia, he went up there and talked about how like 5 days prior to that, he almost dropped out. He couldn't stop crying. He was bawling his eyes out like all day, all night, couldn't and some like he and then 5 days later he's on top of the world. Like, that type of mental fortitude, like getting out of your bed and go walking into the woods, is not hard. Like, and there's a big thing that creeps in, and not a lot of people want to admit it. Everybody gets lazy, and everybody just doesn't want to do shit. So, so I think the toughening of the mind is huge for that, especially if you're gonna be going on a long, gruesome season. But likewise, if you're planning a 5-day hunt and you have to make the most out of that 5 days, you better be in shape to get around, and you better not have that working against you. So I'm a full on advocate of being in the best shape you can be, even if you have absolutely no plans to do anything. It's like I made a post the other day. Hey, what everybody asked me, well, what are you training for? I'm training for life, dude. Like, that's it. Like, I'm my goal is to be in the best
Mhm.
shape of my life for the rest of my life. And because I want to stick around too, and I want to do this shit when I'm old. Like, I want to be that. No, not I want. I am going to be that 85-year-old dude that's in the timber, like, that's hunting from a tree stand. Like, it's unless I die on a motorcycle beforehand or something. But it's one of those things where, like, that. You know, I don't know. I get squirrely, and I start bouncing around when we talk about stuff like this. But that's what I would say. Um,
Yeah, no, that's controlling the controllables, and that you do that really well, with the fact that you recognized as a 12, 13-year-old that that was something that you were
dude.
in control of. Obviously, there's unforeseen circumstances, like you said, you get in a wreck, or if you have unfortunately get cancer or something like that,
Yep.
that's out of your control, but you've done everything that you can to make sure that
And
you are as
I
healthy as
think
possible.
that's it's very interesting. Like, you hit on it perfect, because it's like there's just a lesson there too, like, to where if you put your mind to something, you can do it. That's the same mentality you should have going on an elk hunt or on a whitetail hunt. Like, you should have the. It's like everybody, oh, do you think, social media? Oh, you think you're gonna see one there? You think you're gonna get? Every time I'm out there, I think I'm gonna kill one. And people, like, they're like, wait, what are you talking? I'm like, every time, man.
Mhm.
So you're hanging a tree stand twice a day, every day, for 70 days, like, and every time you think you're gonna, and I'm like, yeah. Or like, maybe like you take out the one or two times where, like, it's strategic observation sit where, like, then you're gonna move in for a kill or something. But it's like, I'm in the game at all times. If I'm not in the game, I move to get in the game, and that's what the whole mobile thing is about. And I think with fitness too, me and Jake, Arvold, first form, we were BSing the other day, and it got me, and I don't talk about it too much, but it really like brought me back to, like, where fitness. I didn't know how crucial fitness was to me until I lost it, and I got in a really bad car wreck. I was hit by a semi truck on the driver's side door on the interstate, right? And I broke a lot. I was ejected from the truck. I broke all these bones. And it was amazing I didn't die. Like, it's one of those crazy things. Like, uh, you know. So anyway, but but that situation put me in a recliner for like 3, 4 months, like just not, you can't move, like, leg immobilized, 5 broken ribs, blown out knee, broken arm, broken collarbone, like all, I couldn't move. And that was probably one of the darkest times of my life because like it felt like somebody had me in a straitjacket, like in knowing that I couldn't do it. Like it made me think like if I was, I don't know, man, some bad things, right? And even throughout that time, like as soon as I could get in a wheelchair, I was wheeling my ass to the gym, and I was doing curls with that one arm. That's all I could do. I was up there every day just curling with that one arm and doing like this with the wheelchair, and then even off the wheelchair, I was on crutches, and I was up there and I was doing whatever I could on those crutches. And then and this arm, I almost lost the movement in this elbow because of it was casted up so solid for so long. And when they took my cast off my left side, dude, like I've always had pretty big quads. Like, dude, my left leg was tiny. My left arm was like the size of
Mm.
a dude. Talk about a humbling experience, or just like a crushing experience. But I went back to that, like that. I went in my mind. I just like, no, I'm gonna get that arm back. I'm gonna get that leg back. And inside of 6 months, I think I won a bodybuilding show. Like from when I was completely out of out of rehab, and I had my cast off. So it's just one of those things where like if you're not like you said, controlling the controllable, and doing what you can, and being the best, nor that, I think about it, and had I not been in the shape I was, I might have been way worse off in that accident. Like so there's
Mhm.
just it's just, I don't know.
Oh yeah. 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 No, I hear that, and I definitely understand that. I love that there wasn't really a necessarily a turning point or something that you are like you just want to be the healthiest and best that you can be. So that would be your reason you're to train. Some people have elk hunting, some people have other things as well. But something that for me, well, first off, just saying if you gave up whitetail hunting, that's fine. You can come out and hunt elk with us then, because you'd be in good shape. But but in all reality, like that makes sense because whitetail hunting or hunting in general is fun. It's a passion. It's something that we want to do. But in all reality, you want to be as healthy as possible because there's other things that are even more important in life, and that's hard to say for hunters. It's hard to say for people who are outdoorsmen, but at the same time, and this is hard to quantify, but I guarantee you your recovery time would not have been that short if you had not been in shape. Right. Hmm. Yep. Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It's and I'm not a scientist, but there's definitely studies out there that show that you can recover a lot quicker if you are already in shape. It's harder to build the muscle up than it is to recover something that you might have lost. And that's something that a lot of people don't recognize, but everyone, and I've brought this up too. A lot of people want to talk about being financially well off when they retire. They want to talk about having properties and putting money away and things like that. That's great. I agree with that 100%. But what are you going to do with it if you can't if you can't function? What investments are you putting into your body right now that are going to allow you to enjoy those things? And a lot of people don't. They just focus so hard on their retirement and being financially well off, which is a great goal. But how are you going to enjoy it if you're not healthy? That's just Mhm. Mm. Yeah. Yep. Mhm. Yep. Exactly, exactly, and to be physically healthy, that's including nutrition, and that honestly for me is one of my sticking points. It's harder to control yourself in the kitchen or whenever you're eating, whenever you're out to eat, than it is to for me to go to the gym. You go tell me I've got 2 hours to go and I have to work out for 2 hours in the gym, I'll go do it. But to control, your nutrition is one of the hard things for me personally. And I know that's a big thing for a lot of people. So having the mental fortitude to get healthy and fit for whatever your goals are, you might just want to be the grandma or grandpa that doesn't need help getting off the ground when they're playing with their grandkids. And then you might want to be the guy that wants to do all the Ironmans and Spartans and all the other stuff going on too. So there's quite a spectrum, but figure out what you're wanting to do and get to the best shape possible for that. You might need to hire a coach. You might need to hire multiple coaches. You might need to have an accountability partner. But as you work through it, the mental fortitude that goes along with that is, I mean, you can't compare it to anything else. It's just like with 75 hard. You're going to have the physical benefits of going through the Live Hard program, but the mental benefits are way more than the physical, because that's what that program is built out to be. And it's just like, you were saying bodybuilding competitions and running and things like that, pushing yourself to the limit and then going past that sometimes. It's key to tap into that mental fortitude aspect of things that will help you when you're hunting, when you're with your family, with your job, like what we were talking about ahead of time, before the podcast. It's things like that that you learn how to rein yourself in and be a better version of you. So fitness isn't just having big muscles. 1,000 crunches a day. Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. Mhm. Yep. 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 Oh, yeah. No, for sure. My dad is currently down, I want to say 60 pounds, and all he's done is just walk and eat right, dial in his nutrition. And he's in his, I think he's 50 or 51, something like that. And he just hit a tipping point where he went to the doctor, and he was a Marine, he was a cop, he's had some very active and fit lifestyle. Uh, that's kind of how he was, how I remember him. And then he had a big accident that happened that he just kind of sat back and let himself go. Um, and and it, he sent me a text. Well, I went out and visited him in Florida, and I was like, "Man, you're looking really good." I was like, "Yeah, I haven't really been telling you guys because I wanted this to be for me." And then I got a text from him. He had a follow up visit at the doctor's because he had hit over. It was over 300 pounds, and he's my height, so he's 5'9", 5'10". Right, that's a lot of weight to carry around on a 5'9", 5'10" frame. And and so he's lost. He's down to like 240 something. And he was like another 10 pounds. And then I told myself I'm going to be hitting the gym. So just to go back to that nutrition aspect, like that is a huge deal. That and the people underestimate walking so much, but just going out, walk for 45 minutes, get your nutrition dialed, and build yourself up to going to the gym. You don't have to be a gym rat like Cody. You don't have to, do those crazy lifts and survive a semi truck wreck, and then go over there and do shoulder presses in a wheelchair. You don't have to do all that. Mm, yeah. Mhm. 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 Scalable. Mhm. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely scalable. We did a test. He did more of a strength than usually he does kind of a Metcon baseline test that involves the assault bike, which everyone hates. When he goes to yeah, yeah, that well, yeah, well, you love it afterwards, but when you're about to puke, and you're still being told to push through, that's rough. But we did kind of a strength component and like me walking, doing the farmer's carry, we did a Tabata. And so we did, doing the farmer's carry, we had guys that were everything from, two 45-pound dumbbells to up to the top was the 275 on a barbell doing farmer carries. And so it's completely scalable based on what you need. Some people were just getting into Bulgarian split squats and so they didn't have any weight, whereas other guys were doing 45-pound dumbbells in each hand. So it's one of the and they both got their butts kicked the same because the level of fitness was different. So anyway, um, all right. Unfortunately, and this is how it always goes. I always get really good into a conversation and we got to end the conversation here. But uh, Cody, what would you like to leave with? Actually, before we get into that, there was one thing that I saw just talking about time, going back to that comment that you made, red pill, blue pill meme or something that I saw. And it was like red pill is you get the time reset to where you're 6 years old, but you have all the knowledge that you have today. Or blue pill, you get $10 million today deposited in your bank account. And I was like, I'm red pill all freaking day because that $10 million is going to be made like that if I'm six with the knowledge that I have now. So, yeah, right. Well, okay. So the way I guess my mind thought about it was I'm still on the same path. But yeah, I was gonna say I'm still on the same path, so I'm still gonna end up with my family, my wife, my kids, everything. That wasn't explaining. I guess it's one of those things you kind of read into because that's where my mind is. But yeah, like I go back in time. Yeah. How do I explain this to my wife that I'm 6 now? Like no, but yeah. Mhm. Getting the time back. No, for sure. Money can always be made. Time can't be time can't be brought back. But yeah, so what would you like to leave with the listeners and then where can they find you at? Where the best place to find you? Definitely. Well, I appreciate your time, man. I, came across you just through Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Loved your story, and I appreciate that you shared what you did with the listeners and the audience today. Really appreciate it. So, guys, I'll leave the links down below where you can find Cody, where you can find his companies, the Mobile Roadshow, and hope you guys have an amazing day. And of course, get out, live your life, and love it.